living level of their house without having to encounter the steps. And it's a challenge that I face with my parents. And I think as we all continue to age and grow and become older, the likelihood of developing a disability is much higher. Disability Advocates of Kent County is a CIL, or a Center for Independent Living. There are 15 centers for independent living in the state of Michigan. The first CIL was established in 1972 in Berkeley by a gentleman by the name of Ed Roberts, who is known as the father of independent living. One of the interesting things about Disability Advocates is we are who we serve. It was founded in 1981 as the Austin Center for Independent Living. And then, and I think this statistic is from 2018, but then and now, our board and our staff are people with disabilities. At least 50% of our staff and board members do and always will have a disability, so that we continue to serve the people that we intended to. 15 CILs in the state of Michigan. One of the questions that we get is, how many people are there with disabilities? So in Michigan, where there are nearly 10 million residents, 1.9 million people have a disability. So that's roughly 20% of people have a disability. And so when we're designing for people, when we're building and we're thinking about plans for building and construction, it's good to keep in mind that if we design for people with disabilities, then we're designing for everybody. It's estimated that 4.6 million Americans have an intellectual or a developmental disability, and we serve people with developmental disabilities as well. And nearly 10,000 baby boomers are turning 65 every single day. So that's a lot of people who will eventually have a disability. And then I think I've already touched on this. You have an 80% likelihood of acquiring a disability in your lifetime. This shows just some of the different types of disabilities there, and the age group at which people are influenced. But there's memory, there are visual disabilities, problems with hearing, pain management, and mobility and agility, all of which increase as we get older. So how do we work alongside people with disabilities and advocate for an accessible and welcoming community, which is our mission? Quite a number of programs help us to accomplish that. And the focus really is on access. So accessibility, access to home, community, and employment. Just a little bit about what we do in helping people stay in their homes. We've got occupational therapists on our staff that go out and do home assessments to help people continue to live independently. We teach people independent living skills, and this allows people to stay in their homes longer. One of the things that we help with, which is always a challenge, is affordable housing, especially for low-income people. And then one of the things that we provide is benefits counseling and navigation, so helping people who are on Medicaid and Medicare navigate SSI, SSDI, just helping them understand the benefits that are available to them. This is some photos of a local Rotary Club building a wheelchair ramp. I participated in a wheelchair ramp build in July for an individual who ended up in a wheelchair and needed a ramp to get in and out of her home. And there are lots of opportunities for volunteer involvement using, we work with lots of groups in the community, employers, and people who just want to help out, and it's really very rewarding to be a part of something tangible and participate in building a wheelchair ramp. So we do quite a few ramp builds throughout the year. We also help people with employment. So pre-employment transition services, we work with a lot of young people, a lot of people between 14 and 26 years old who are struggling with finding employment, having the confidence to go out and interview or to put their resumes together. So we help them with everything that they need in order to find employment and stay employed. Independent living and foundational skills. And we do a lot of advocacy around the ADA. For our youth transition services, this is a really exciting program that helps kids who are still in school who have disabilities. In this particular photograph, what they were doing was they did a makeover for this young woman, and then they did a session where they helped them with their interviewing skills, and then they conducted mock interviews to help them be ready to find employment. And it's a really very popular program among the youth. And then we're involved in the community. We do a lot of accessibility reviews. We have a partnership with Downtown Grand Rapids, Inc., where we went out this year and reviewed 80 different sites of venues downtown and around downtown to determine the various stages of accessibility. And then all of that information is on the DGRI website so that people who are interested in knowing before they get to a place how accessible it is can check out everything from nearby accessible parking to the restrooms, and just understand the accessibility of the venue. How many of you are familiar with Jackson Botsford of our staff? He attends your design team meetings. He is available, and I'll talk a little bit more about this in a little bit. He's available to be a resource to you, and in working with the designs and the site plans and reviews that you have, he can help you with that. He also does training in universal design. Something else that we do in the community is go out and do disability decorums, which is basically working with employers to help them understand how to work with people with disabilities and also working with businesses on providing accommodations to people with disabilities. One of the things I wanted to talk with you about today is Absolutely Accessible Kent. How many of you attended the Absolutely Accessible Kent event in April of last year? Wonderful. It was a well-attended event. Elena Rodriguez, who's an international architect and a Paralympian, was our guest speaker. And she held a very poignant presentation on universal design. Mike Perry from Progressive AE was there as well, and he talked about the the Mary Free Bed YMCA. I don't know if any of you have been out there, but it's a phenomenal facility. And that was constructed completely using universal design. We have plans to have the 2020 Absolutely Accessible Kent event on April 21st. And we're really excited. We've secured Chris Downey, who is an award-winning architect who was featured on 60 Minutes. He lost his sight in 2008, which has, of course, changed his career and his life. But he will be our presenter at the Absolutely Accessible Kent event this year. And you might want to save the date for that, April 21st. We're very excited to have him and very much look forward to that. The Absolutely Accessible Kent event also took off. We had some people from other centers for independent living from Michigan in attendance, and modeling after that event, the Center for Independent Living in Marquette just held the Absolutely Accessible UP event and modeled it after our event, so we were pretty excited about that. I talked a little bit about the partnership with Experience Grand Rapids, and this is a page from their accessibility guide online. So basically, it indicates whether or not an organization is compliant with the ADA, whether it has accessible restrooms or family restrooms, whether the doors are accessible, whether there's accessible parking, whether the signs have Braille, whether there's access for hearing impaired people, and then information on getting around the venues. So there are, as I said, 80 different venues that have been reviewed. 80 different venues that have been reviewed. Is that a little better? Sorry, I can't, I'm having a hard time staying behind the podium. So disability decorum, technical assistance. What I really want to leave you with is the idea that as part of the partnership that we have with the city, Jackson is available to help you with technical assistance. And so basically what that means is that he can help you with your plans, with your site review, or with your reviewing the plans to help you implement universal design. So absolutely accessible Kent. I think one of the things that has made that such an outstanding program is the partnership between architects and engineers and designers and then community advocates, people in the community, and then the people with disabilities that we serve. We like to refer to them as our test pilots and get them involved in the community and in having their voice heard in the community. One of the things that we've done with the engaging the design and construction communities is to have them partner with people with disabilities and people who are community advocates and understand what it's like to have a disability. So, for instance, we had workshops in July of this year where people got together and went out and visited, in this case, it was the Calder Plaza and Rosa Parks Circle and Veterans Memorial Park and the Amway Grand Plaza Hotel. And we went out in small groups with people in wheelchairs, with people who are blind, and had them try to navigate. And it's one thing to say, boy, this would be difficult in a wheelchair, but when you're with someone in a wheelchair and you're walking with them and they get to a place where there's broken concrete in the sidewalk and they're nearly upended out of their wheelchair, it really is just startling. And I think that made a huge impression on all the people who were involved in those projects. These are photos from that event in July, out and about in the community, and lots of opportunities for making some positive changes and not just in curb cuts, but lots of sidewalk repair, lots of places where there's the need for some repairs. And then just a little bit on universal design versus being ADA compliant. So in this particular case, there's a 1 to 12 slope on the curb cut, and that is ADA compliant. But if it's less than a 1 to 12 slope, it's much easier for wheelchair users to be able to use the ramps. Similarly, 36 inches is ADA compliant on the wheelchair ramp, but anything greater than that makes it much easier to maneuver a wheelchair. So 60 by 60 inches is ADA compliant, but 90 by 90 gives you a lot more room, turning radius with a wheelchair, particularly in a family restroom. And why wouldn't you just design for universal design? This is a utility closet that shows you the ADA standards and the universal design standards, and again, just gives you more room to work. So really designing for people with disabilities helps us um, make things accessible for everybody. Jackson has been involved in a number of projects already related to the city, and he is available to help you with your plans. So let me stop there and see if you have any questions. Yes.
Can you talk a little bit more about the differences between, what you would recommend as standards versus what's actually ADA compliant? And how far off is ADA compliant what's actually needed?
It's not, in many cases, it's not that far off. And it could be just, going the little bit extra. Like, like 60 inches versus 90 inches. So the ADA helps you to be compliant, but if you implement universal design, you're really, I'm not sure how to say this, you're really going above and beyond. So it's not that far off, but it's definitely worth taking a look at universal design. Yes?
Is there a resource or booklet of those graphics that show how universal design is recommended beyond ADA?
I believe we have something that I can get to you. Let me get with Jackson, and then Shantae, can I get that to you? Because I think we've got something that would be helpful to you. Yes?
What's your review process typically look like as far as time to turn around a review if we send a site plan to you guys to look at?
Usually pretty quickly, especially this time of year. In the summer, Jackson gets really busy with a lot of site reviews himself, so his time is a little more crunched in the summer, but the rest of the year, he can turn things around very quickly. Other questions? Is there anybody who was in attendance at the Absolutely Accessible Kent event that would like to say anything about your experience with that? No, not today. Yes.
So the 80 venues that you reviewed, is there a program to upgrade any of the deficiencies that you found in those venues?
Yes, there is. Quite a few of the venues were very open to making adjustments based on our findings. So it would be very interesting actually to take a look at all of the different venues and come up with, and maybe I can do that with Jackson, how many of them made adjustments based on the reviews. But yes, there were. Yes?
Is there any talk with the city on getting the reviews that you want to do that site plan review from us, or is it going to be separate?
That's a good question.
So part of the partnership that the city has entered into with Disability Advocates in the county is, as she stated, Jackson is, he's regularly reviewing plans, but now the city has a contract where we are working with disability advocates, and they can spend a certain amount of hours on your plans when you submit them through the design team phase. So instead of you having to seek out disability advocates in the county separately and saying, hey, we have these plans at the city, they're already being reviewed, and now would you take a look at them to see if there's a way that we can improve upon the ADA standards that are required? you can actually request from your planner that you're working with during the design team phase to have disability evaluators at their DAKC. I'm just going to be saying that. Take a look at your plans, and Jackson will work with you to see where you guys can make improvements. So it's earlier in the phase rather than later in the phase. Does that make sense? So they have a certain amount of hours that they are contracted with the city to provide this service as part of that design team process.
Yes,
Does that help? I see a lot more heads nodding.
yes.
So that makes me nervous. Okay. And then if you want to request those services, what I did not say, or maybe I did and I just don't remember, you're going to just contact your planner that you're already working with, or you can request it if you're, I was going to say dropping off your digital plans at the counter, but not everybody can just submit it online, right? Everybody's doing that online in the interview. I thought a shameless plug. So when you do that, you can just email anyone, one of the planners, or if you are in the office and you're at the counter, you can ask to speak to one of them at the counter. And then,
So I guess just kind of building on a question, what happens when those hours are used up? Do we just directly contact disability office?
yep, it's fairly new, so I don't know that we're going to run out that quickly, but
Just in case.
But yes, the idea is that either if this program or this new contract is successful, which I think it will be, then there's hopes of renewing that. And if that is not the case, then you are always welcome to seek out the APC. And like you said, Jackson or Dave, they've been working with the city for a while to work on,
Yeah.
I would say improving, but expanding people's view of what is ADA compliant versus universal design and what the standards should be. So, does that help?
You had a question?
Yeah, from a developer's point of view, are there incentives to bring something to universal compliance as opposed to just ADA?
I don't know that there are, I mean, I think the incentive is just going that extra, but I mean, in terms of are there incentives? No, there's not anything concrete to get people to do that.
So there's not dollars designated
No,
as
I
far
mean,
as
as a
incentives.
developer's point of view, they usually are like bare minimum, so like.
Yep.
Yeah,
go the extra
right.
mile, why to get them to do that?
Yeah.
They brought them their customer base. That's true.
That's right.
Maybe we'll have checklists, right, that will give you incentives for helping with your
It's pretty good, right?
There you go.
Do you recognize the buildings that have incorporated the universal design in some manner?
We should. We should definitely do that. I'll have to talk with Jackson about that. Because that right there would be an incentive. We published a list of,
Or even have something, on the entrance of the building?
yeah, that's a great idea. I love that idea.
Have all of you seen the Mary Street Red Line? Where the burning is? Yeah. So that right now that's kind of like the gold standard in this community where they implemented as many bells and whistles that they could, mainly because who they're partnering with. But that would be a good example of universal design in like implementation. I have no clue how much that costs because I didn't help build it. I just drive by it. So that is something to think about as far as recognizing them in the community, but you can also, what, I'm recognizing that. But some of you guys in the front are a little bit newer with the exception of one. Are you all architects or engineers or what's my group today? And I'm like,
Architects.
Contractor. Cool. We moved here from New Mexico. And one of the projects I did in Santa Fe was to convert one of our pools to a completely compliant ADA facility. And we had a ramp that led into the pool, also into the whirlpool. And when they come in with their street wheelchair, they're transferred into facilities wheelchair. So when they're done with using the pool or whatever, taking a shower, they go back into their dry wheelchair. It was super successful.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. That's a great idea.
Once they're in the facility and they're transferred into the facility wheelchair, they're on their own. They go right in the pool
that's superb. Well done.
And even having some sort of bulleted list or something of maybe aspects that you might miss in a typical plan would be helpful. Someone had asked earlier,
Right.
is a list of universally accessible items that we should be paying attention to.
What's the low-hanging fruit? That doesn't necessarily cost anything more, especially, but is easy to do. Just aware of it.
Yeah, let's put something together like that can help you. I can talk to Jackson about that and we'll put that together.
Should we, I just contacted Jackson directly on my phone for a plan review. Is that okay, or should I go through the city? Does it matter? Okay.
I don't think it does.
I have a client concerned about this.
Oh, okay,
Want to make sure I get it right.
great. Any other questions? Yes.
I have a comment, is that, from the city's perspective, I work closely with marijuana applicants, and we require all marijuana facilities to be, as much as we can, the standards of the design. So if we, any of you work with marijuana clients, they should get for this.
That's good to know.
Thanks so much.
I was about to say, by the number of eyelids I'm getting, just blink, blink. I think that's the end of the questions.
I think that's it.
Okay, so thank you all for coming again today. We will meet again the second Tuesday in January. I don't know what that date is, and hopefully I will have a topic. If you did not sign the sign-in sheet today, please do so. And if you're not on the email list, I added a column for that because I've had a couple of people walk up to me afterwards and say that they were invited by a colleague, which is totally awesome. But if you don't want to be missed and you want to be on the email list, please just check the box and I'll add you, and then that way you'll get the invitation for next month. So thanks again for coming. Be safe out there driving. One more question?
Just a recommendation, you can register with the AIA as a provider of CEUs, and you get a whole bunch more architects here.
We were at one point, there was a gentleman from AI that was coming and you would get credits. The architects would get credits for coming to the class. And then I haven't seen him in a while, so I don't know what happened. But I do send it to the list for AI, for the general list, and they're supposed to be distributing it to the group. So,
Well, yeah, I hear about it through the AIA, but if you register as a learning provider, we can earn those points for our
for your
license.
attendance? Okay. I'll look
Oh,
into that.
that's great.
Thank you. Have a great day, guys.
Thank you.